A very good morning to all online. So, this is the session 8 of Project Closure Ethics and Digital Management. So, in this current session, we are going to have a brief discussion on how conflicts are arising during a project discussion and how far the hazardous and how far it is getting into a negative shade, and with respect to determination of all the important objectives behind those conflicts, how it has been facilitated with a lot of time oriented, with lot of document oriented, with lot of accuracy and availability of records, how it is being appropriately driven towards fulfilling those conflicts and making it so very convenient to the users with the help of some decisions and arrangements done with the strategy and its importance towards making it so very transparent rather than handling it with a lot of deficiencies. So, in this current session, we are going to have a discussions on qualities of project managers and how it has been deliberately getting into a conflict and how the conflict arises and how the conflicts is given with the remedial measure and how it is being predicted and prevented, and finally how it is related with the end user or the end consumer, and how it becomes a brand. So these topics we will be having a blend of both the human resources and branding, that the two cover up in marketing too. So in this particular short discussion we'll be having a hybrid discussion, that is blend of both human resources and marketing too. So coming to the first most important frame. So in this frame we are going to have a five pillars which are being the expected skills for enhancing a project manager who is taking the wholesome responsibility for making all the certainty to come under specific key choices and making all the processings and tracings right from the considerations of I mean, what are all the rates in which the work has been continued, and what is the demand arises, and how the characteristics of those demands are manipulated, whether it is tapping towards the topmost end or whether it is tapping from the middle end or from the fundamental end. So the terminals are to be noted down with utmost categorization for making it so very generic and so very specific too parallelly. So in that case, the leadership monitoring skills, the communication effectiveness, and allocating the work, which is both intra and inter-departmental allocations and delegations, and how the firm is making ready for all the industrial readiness and as well as the employee readiness in order to note it down as a predominant way of handling things. So, to be very precise, I'll give you an example. Taking a consideration of a transport system which is to be planned, we are all getting cab services across all the IT industries. So when I prefer a cab service, it is getting into a priority of picking and placing an individual who is working for our institution around the clock, around the shifts. They are having a clear cut evidences of making an individual to commute in a easier rate rather than commuting through our own transport or rather than commuting through public transport. They are allocating an individual. The Department of Transportation is becoming very clear. That is what we call it as inbound analytical data manipulation. So when I consider this inbound analytical data manipulation, I'll be taking the consideration of delegating people, which is being a consideration given to those guys who are all really the contributors of an institution, is being converted as the ready pillars of those institution. If I do offer these many allowances and these many comfort zones in an institution, obviously the job turnover ratio, the conflicts, the managerial discrepancies, and the objectives deviations, and what are all the uncertainties, those every elements which are all listed down will be moved from the negative zone to the positive zone automatically with the help of additional incremental elemental activities, which might be an incentive, which might be a recognition, or which might be a comfort zone. So whatever the activities we are giving into, it is a kind of, I mean, triggering the status of that particular elements, which are all felt as necessity It might be a comfort for some set of people. It might be a necessary, mandatory one for those set of people. I need to cover up those necessary and mandatory elements. I need to have a clear cut understanding between a need and want. I cannot make it everything as need, and I cannot make everything as wants. So I need to have a thin line of difference between need and want, and that particular differentiation must be done by a project manager. He or she working as a project manager must have a thin line of difference between need and want. That is what is being listed as communication and delegation. And finally, having that josh, or having that joy of working, enthu of working, associating with a lot of channels, and analyzing the power struggles which are all being made in each and every level, and based on the struggles and based on the discrepancies and speed breakers, how the focus is keen towards making the target achievable, and how the channels are being studied with their earlier experiences. So for this purpose only, we are allocating those experienced fellows in a particular chair of taking the responsibility because of facing difficulties in each and every level, and moving with the channels and targets at the same point of time, and giving them a clarity on making them analyzing with respect to acknowledging the primary focus, and how the specialities are being converted in order to ensure the competencies level with all the people involved in a team, how the competencies are mapped and how the competencies are standardized. So they have an emphasizing factor on creating the purpose, and that purpose will be the objective for them to analyze all the first three primary skills, that is leadership, communication, and delegation. And the last two skills, which are all enthu skills and decision making, it is out of their own individualism. The first three categorization will be from the instruction given by the top level people. Irrespective of my taste and preferences, I'll be taking those individual decisions, which is of totally on decision making, and enthu is out of my own individualism. So in this first three generic contributions and the next two specific contributions, I'll be having a compositional elements which are all mingled together, and each 20 percentage I'll be contributing, and finally it comes as 100 percentage of overall inputs. So once after making these skills as updated to me, what I should do, how the projects are made as less complicated. Actually, by default, when a problem is analyzed, the problem will be of more and more of complication, and the problem comes to me, it will be of different dimension. And obviously, the problem finally it is going to a project, and make the project as a solution, and finally the solution becomes a product. This is what problem, project, and then the product. So the flow is these three. So when the problem is finally analyzed with a solution, or with a sequence, or with the step by step procedure of a project, I'll be making all the leads and all the complexities and trial and error methodologies, and creating the complete study or a survey of a project lies here. It is simply to streamline people right from the various domains. They will come, work together, they will streamline the problem, and the problem becomes the policy becomes the procedure, and the procedure becomes the product. So this is how they start narrow downing the problem from the problem to the product as a end product. So ultimately, whatever the individual who are all working, irrespective of their knowledge domain or irrespective of their system domain, the capability to be known on basic criterion right from the basic arrangements, that is product arrangements or service arrangements. Coming to the second most important element of marketing programs and campaigns, and the most important is obviously giving a new update then and there to catch those customers. If at all, if I'm not having any kind of innovations or creativity in my product, obviously the product becomes a complication one, and it will be one point of time it will be outdated. So in order to get those outdated elements, I need to go with a new product launches, or a new ideologies, or a new creativity, or giving them a zone for making a clear cut understanding. So whenever I experiences these kind of bottlenecks, or I mean those kind of traps, I should be in a position to customize my project. So the project can be customized, the project can be made flexible with the help of project leaders' approval. And that flexibility is what we expect for the easier completion and the smoother completion of the project. If at all, if I'm not getting into any kind of flexibility or making it as a smooth functioning, I'll be the one who will be standing outside. What to do, I don't know. How to do, I don't know. When to start and when to complete, I don't know. And finally, the project becomes the pending case. So this is the reason majorities of project cases are being still outstanding without a clear-cut solution. So as an individual, I should make it as easy as possible, as making it as time oriented, accuracy oriented, recalling all the previous experiences and making the current justification easily, giving a proper judgmental factor, getting odd number of opinions. If I get some even number of opinions, it might be into a tie. So in order to avoid that tie, I'll be getting some opinions from my team workers and the third party resourcer. And that third party resourcer will give the final decision. It is like a third umpire decision. So that is how a project is finalized. If I go deep rooted analysis, obviously it will not have a solution. It will go like a loop. I cannot stop the loop. And this is the why reason of mainly dissemination of projects and terminations of projects, closure, everything is happening because of these kind of micro analysis. Rather than going it in with a macro analysis, if I go in micro analysis, it will be surely ending up in a loop and that loop will not close. So, whenever this particular elementalization of a team is communicated with the gathering or a get together or a kind of a planned meeting or unplanned meeting or stand up meeting, what we call it as, even in our institution, we have stand up meetings every day. Every Wednesday, we'll be having a stand up meeting, which is the best practice of an institution. Rather than asking them to arrange in a common seminar hall and conducting a meeting for which they offer a refreshment, and after the refreshment if they go, nearly 2 to 2.5 hours will go away. Everyone from a particular floor or a block, they come, arrange, organize themselves and making the meeting and then completing the meeting. The meeting agenda will not be more than 3 points, but for which they need to arrange a lot, and finally when they come and organize in a place, it will not be a easy one for them to organize, and when they disperse, it becomes a hectic process. Nearly 3 to 4 periods will vanish away. So what about the alternate elements for which we can make it as a meeting or a gathering or a intimation of information? It is not mandatory to all ask all the people to come and assemble on a common place. Whenever we are signing an attendance, every individual start signing attendance from 8 to 8:30. By this point of time, 8:15 to 8:30, I, my boss, my colleagues, my co-workers stand, listen to the instruction, go away. It is what we call it as stand-up meeting. So that stand-up meeting is also applicable. It is also welcome for addressing an individual rather than making it as a formal official meeting. So as days goes on, we must change accordingly with respect to the flexible items what we have it as procedure or what we have it as policies. Suppose if at all in my reception, in my organization, if there is a reception lobby, if I stand in front of principal, head of the departments, dean, everyone is standing and listening to the conversation. It is not more than 10 minutes, and obviously they will also wind up easily. Just communicating, that's it. I'm not asking any kind of opinion. For opinion, I can post polls or I can give messages. So it is slowly reducing the habit of conducting a meeting for hours and hours together because it reduces productivity. If I conduct meeting more than 1 hour or 2 hours, so I mean eating all the periods and finally leaving them before lunch, it is like waste of time. What is the outcome of meeting? Obviously, we need to communicate them, we need to get the opinion from them, and we need to get a signature stating that I have attended the meeting. That's it. That impression can be done on any kind of mode, just to intimate them in person, ask them, make them stand, give them the inputs, go away. It is not taking hardly 15 minutes. So this is how we need to communicate people, which is the right example. This policy to be updated across all the institutions, irrespective of any kind of serviceability or product oriented, whatever the organization it could be. Just give them a clear cut understanding of what is the task today. Don't overburden them, or don't over target them or over complicate them. This is what the takeaway from this frame. So when I give some realistic, real time world of applications of giving all the data, I need to be on a complete circle. That some complete circle is set, stick, and slow on. So slowly, if gradually, if I'm getting into a particular organizational goal, I need to set a standard, stick on with standard, and succeed with a slow, gradual process rather than pressuring it up. So the succeeding capabilities of an individual is only because of setting it clearly and sticking on it clearly. Without setting it clearly and sticking on it clearly, I cannot customize, or I cannot make a serviceability elements. So I cannot distribute all the networking. Slowly it will become a temporary one. I cannot impress, or I cannot give my footprint, which is highly consistent, which is highly monotonous, which is highly mapping with the requirement, that pyramid to be focused on. So the strategical pyramids what we implement right from the alliances till its inquiry, every individual must know what kind of alliances elements I have, what is the route I should go on, what is the schedule I should fix on, how do I collect the data, how do I measure the quality, what are all the people, and who are all the people, and what are all the objectives I have to meet it regularly, whom to report and how to report, is there any format, is there any nomenclature. So those things to be noted down on making it as a setting standards and sticking with the standards. And once after setting and sticking with the real time expectation, it is easy for us to succeed easily because of giving all the elements, that is giving them discounts, or giving them a waiver, or giving them a recognition, or giving them premium discounts, or giving them cashbacks. So these are all some alliances. This is what I have referred as alliances. These are all the alliances elements I can provide to my employees in order to ensure I can give a reimbursement. Suppose if at all in my institution, if I ask them all to publish 2 articles per month, I have an indirect target in my institution. I need to publish either 2 articles in a current semester, which should be indexed in a high reputed impact journal, either a UGC journal or a Scopus journal or a SCI Science Citation Index or Annexure 1, 2, what we have it in across the state university. Everywhere it is being a target for all the teachers to write an article, get it published. So for which we have n number of consultancies working behind. And for writing an article and publishing an article, it becomes a commercial one, and slowly they are increasing the charges, right from 7K to maximum of 30 to 40K. And if I'm going for an extra 1 or 2, it becomes around 1 lakh. So the art of writing things and publishing things with the least percentage of plagiarism itself has become a commercial one. It has become a standard. So without publishing an article, I cannot survive in my position as a teacher, as a professor. We must know what is the importance of research. So the two with respect to manpower research, or market research, or financial research, or technical research, or operational research, we have everywhere. Every functionalization of management is directly or indirectly linkaged with research, and that linkages will never end. It has to be mandatorily followed up with all the rubrics. Unless and otherwise, if I'm not into the part of this competency, I'll be fired. This is the real time scenario of all the teachers, irrespective of any institution. Either it could be a top institution, or it could be a medium institution, or a least institution, just a startup institution also. They are into this rubric. Why? The inspection team, the auditing team, the furthermore international standardization for organization certification, for everything, academic, annual academic audit, AAA we have everywhere. These kind of auditings and board of accreditation, everything has been enforceable with respect to a target which is mandatorily stressing me to do this, even though if I'm not having sufficiency in my accuracy, sufficiency in my data, sufficiency in my time, planning, scheduling. I should do this. I cannot compromise on this. That is what setting and sticking to that particular inculcation of getting all the things. Once after doing this, surely I'll be getting a reimbursement. What are all the, I mean, payment I have made? What are all the proof I do have? If I attach everything, if I submit to the corresponding associative body, I'll be getting the reimbursement, which will be delayed for either 30 or 60 days. But surely one day I'll be getting definite reimbursement of this particular spendings of all the academic expenditures. And those expenditures will be manipulated, and that will be calculated with respect to how many reimbursements you have made, and that will have a future reflection and sure reflection on appraisals too. So that is what we are going to have a discussion with respect to interrelations. So surely in appraisals, these kind of reimbursements, utilizing the amount, so they will be giving a fund of about 1 lakh per department. How much amount has been utilized in that 1 lakh which has been given the long last year or last semester? So based on the expenses only, they can release further more amount, and that amount is ours, indirectly ours. I need to utilize those amount which is given to me as an indirect investment rather than a direct investment. But slowly, startingly, with respect to external outside world interaction, I'm going to utilize that amount with respect to the giving all the relevant bills, relevant evidences and occurrences, and then I'm submitting for reimbursement. This is how major institutions are approaching the employees to involve in, even though the non-interested areas are also. Even though if I'm not having any 0% interest on this particular publication, I need to do, because it is being an inspection parameter, and that parameter is what interrelationship organization of a particular individual. How to manage this? I need to start increasing my strategy for my survival. I need to defend with the competition. I need to make all the agencies and states councils, that is in innovation institutional innovation council, we have a very good example for this. Innovation Institution Council, IIC, it has been conducting a tremendous level of exchangements programs, faculty exchange programs, and student exchange program for giving them a clarity and giving them a platform for how the Innovathon, Hackathon, Smart India hackathons, how the competitive based learning is tremendously increasing nowadays. I completed my engineering 12 years back. It was around in 2011 I got passed out. By that point of time, it was only a prototyped way of learning, but now it has becoming a competitive based learning. Everywhere people are getting into a competition. If they have the the proper evidences for competitions, they have a score called PGPA, performances grade point average. Usually we do have cumulative grade points average, or what we call it as CGPA or GPA as grade point average, what we have it in our academic curriculums. But newly, current NEP, that is National Education Policy 2020, has inculcated the students to go for performances measurement. It is not a part of curriculum, it is away from curriculum. So this is how the young students, the current era students, are getting exposed to the new level of educational policies. This is how the trademark to be. This is how a benchmark to be fixed. Similar kind of benchmarks are expected in human resources department too. It is the easiest way to manage the relationship effectively. They can have a network in a shorter span. A 19-year fellow will have around 500 resources as network. It has becoming a superb zone for them to really understand what is exactly happening in the surrounding and what is exactly the situation is. And not one of blaming, I'm not getting placement, they have promised placement, I'm not getting placement still now. What is the enhancing capability a candidate is having is also a counting factor. And for that counting factor, we need to have a gel between organizations, between committees, between associative bodies. I need to have a network, a pure official network in my zone. How do I plan this? How do I start networking? And this is what the basic problem among all the professionals, young professionals. They start into networking right from the year of starting their graduation till date. They will have a very widespread network, and that widespread network is because of creating all these benches. How a web of organizational resources can be collected, how the citations can be increased, how the awareness can be explored furthermore, how I can configure this. It is openly available. Anyone can take and anyone can make it as very boomerang to them. It can be so many, I mean, customization and so very flexible. Each and every individual can make like how it could be a betterment for their networking, how they can optimize their network. So when I'm trying to make this network so very specific to them, there might be some conditions. There might be some flexible conditions, or there might be some stringent conditions. Provided if I start working on those conditions, I'll make it as standard and make it as a set of parameters which is highly influencing and highly learnable one too. Slowly I start learning on this, and I'll make everyone learn about what is exactly happening and what is exactly the competition is. So this is how we succeed or fail. Once for success and failing, the network plays a vital role, and that network might make you to the top or might make you down, whatever it might be. Do it, learn it, progress, and then the progress is going to give either success or fail. Even if you fail, what is a progressive fail you have? Have a roadmap for the progressive fail. You have made a progress. That is itself a huge, I mean, paramount. It has been a huge trademark. It has been a, I mean, non-infringed elements. I have created my own patent. I have created my own, trademarks, copyrights, all the patented or all the copyrights, everything, intellectual property rights. What we learn is also a part of manpower resources allocation. This is what setting it with the relationship, and how interrelationship or aspected with respect to the stimulations available from the zones which are all nearby. My immediate competitor, if he or she is calling me for a meet to analyze which is the trend and what is the zone I can separate, which is the product they are going to focus, and what is the product they are giving me as a choice, how we do divide among ourselves in order to exist in the market, rather than the third party coming and making a way to be the part of non-competitive elements. Suppose if the third party comes and start ruling us, our survival becomes a problem. So the existing people sit together, discuss, and they divide their contributions. So this is a secondary level of making the environmental aspects of organizational development. So coming to the conceptualization. So till now we had a discussion on how to make this, what is the outline, or what is the drawing, or what is the framework in which we can fit our capabilities into a system. But when it becomes as a concept, it should have a proof. It should have an observation record. So when I try to create that observation record, I should not go for multiple kind of iterations. I should go either one time or three times or five times. It goes on with the sequence. So out of which I can take a majority, and that majority will be a, impact on outcome. So when I set some standards for industrial analysis, or when I set from a standard from a network analysis, as I told, characterization analysis, and activities and performances based analysis, I need to be very strong on how these concentrations are being set on a parameter. Where do I start my focus? Where to end my focus? How to make research outcomes or getting utilized on this kind of organizational development? What kind of survey I could make? How many samples I have got? Out of those total samples, how much analysis I should do? And that analysis really it is helping me out in finalizing the outcome. Whether the end results are having the research elements which are all diffused along with the end outcomes. Is the end outcomes are really helpful for me to understand the concepts and to derive a new fundamental framework? Is there any helpfulness for me to ideate a new prototype, these things to be answered. Without getting answers for these questions, what I have listed now, I cannot step ahead with respect to a new element of taking business or job opportunities or employabilities or upskilling or whatever the kind of a new step. I cannot go forward. This is what the mechanisms usually suggested by the people of all the developmental cells, which we have it in all the organization. So, well, I am trying to make it as determination elements. How to determine these kind of situations? Surely, I'll be having some indication. I'll be having a symptom how the industry is performing now. Based on the outcome, I can just prejudge. But to be very accurate, I should have some questions. I should have some survey. While I am doing a survey, I should mandatorily ask these three questions to all the stakeholders. So, what are all the reasons for collaboration? I should ask why to collaborate. Recently, major educational institutions, that is, the educational institutions which are all having both engineering campus and Institute of Technology. There are some institutions, both in engineering campus and Institute of Technology. They have as two establishments. Slowly, they start collaborating. Why? Because they don't have sufficient collaboratives and calibrative elements with respect to their ideologies. They are trying to convert it as a deemed university, or they are trying to convert it as an incubation center. So they are making it as a center of excellence. So to make it a center of excellence, they start collaborating. Suppose if I have three sections of mechanical in my Institute of Technology and three sections of mechanical engineering in engineering campus, all three and three together forms a six, and they name it as Department or School of Mechanical Engineering. So this is a new idea. All the chief executive officers of all the institutions, the chairmen, board of studies members, academic council members are suggesting this. Why to make this as a school of mechanical engineering? Whereas that is a transition from a department of mechanical engineering to a school of mechanical engineering is not that easy. A department of management studies to a school of management studies, a business school. So when I'm collaborating these departments as a common school, it becomes a individual responsibility. No one will interfere in our ideologies and decisions. No one will be the innovative thinkers or talent enablers. Our own people will take up the responsibility based on the seniority, and they will collaborate among ourselves. The engineering campus MBA department, if they are having around 60 intake, one section, and our one section will migrate each other, and they start collaborating, and the outcome of the collaboration will be decentralization. Since it is so very centralized, for each and every query, for each and every approval, I go stand in front of dean, I go stand in front of principal. When it is getting collaborated, my own people becomes the dean, my own people becomes the principal or the director, and I'll getting the approval in a shorter span. I don't want to go for n number of paperwork. The same paper will go to 3 to 4 desk, and finally in the fifth desk I'll be getting a partial approval, and that should not be the regularity. I should get one and only approval. The next day, the event has to be started. So rather than if I make it as so very complicated for funding, I should go meet a accountant. For getting approval for space, I should go meet event coordinator. For getting a hospitality and refreshment, I should go meet a individual who is taking care of the canteen. If these things are happening in a stimulant way in each and every iteration, the entire approval process itself it will take nearly 10 days. So in the another 10 days, I'll be getting event. How do I plan an event? How do I plan a recruitment, or how do I start an induction? Any event, a guest lecture, induction, cultural program, or a symposium, or a guest industrial visits, or a guest lecture, whatever it could be. For each and everything, if I drag it so very long, if I make it so very long, what is the purpose on making this dragging? It is literally, and I mean, eating my time. It is literally dragging the entire situation, and finally, it will end up in closure. It will be winded up. It will not be into consideration. Surely, they will be saying no to this entire event, and finally, the event getting closed. This is how major unplanned works and planned works are getting into closure. So, for this, the remedial measure to be on the second question, what are all the benefits? Usually, when I have a benefit, along with the benefit, I'll be having some risk. I need to categorize. I need to allocate people for allocating on these two area. One who is going to categorize the risk, one who is going to focus on benefit. I need to set people for this. And finally, successful achievements of participants, I need to get mutual understanding. Whether there is a subordination between the objectives given by the institution and the objectives given by the customers or the participants or the audience, whatever it might be. So, these 3 points to be answered by stakeholders who are all the part and parcel of the organization. Without their responses recorded, signed, approved, and finally it is being given as a approval copy or order, confirmation order. Without the answers as taking place in the confirmation order, I cannot take the next step. So this particular determinations to be done in order to know what is my conflict, why the conflict arises, why there is a disagreement, why there is a disencouragement, why the parties are not into the alignment of making it resolved effectively, and how the importances are not equally given. If a party A is getting more importance, if party B is not getting that importance, obviously party B will give their, opposition, give their raising their tickets. Why I'm not getting that approval, or why I'm not getting that much recognition? Why there is a partiality between giving them a recognition? Everything starts nurturing, and finally, when it becoming a decision and maintained as a overall conditional analysis, I'll be focusing on some emotional intelligences. This is how a manpower planner or a human resource manager must do this in a regular interval. Every week once or every fortnight, I should do emotional intelligence check, whether they are really highly emotional intelligence or moderately emotional intelligence or low level emotional intelligence. We need to give one, two, three ranking alone. If it is in the low category, one, moderate, two, highly, three. So when this particular three ranking scale is done in a weekly manner or a fortnight manner, I'll be getting some inputs on who are all the misguided employees and who are all the guided employees. I need to know who are all the misguided one, and I need to identify the misguided one and make them a clear cut training that the misguiding is because of wrong assumptions of data. The misguidance is because of wrong taking up of data and wrong consideration of data, which has been wrongly interpreted. And finally, I'll be giving them a input on how the conflicts are arising and the challenges, the myths. Exactly, the myths behind conflict is to be clearly defended. It has to be investigated and defended before the peer members. So once after defending the problem before the peer members, surely they will not come back again with the new problem because they know where to go, where to start, where to end, and how it has been resolved, either by financially or by socially, culturally, politically. We can resolve any kind of conflict. Sitting together, discussing about the problem, and winding up the problem is as easy as possible, provided if there is a mutual understanding between the parties, either a party A from office side or party B from the vendor side. It could be a problem because of poor management of resources or poor management of demanding and settlement issues. We might be getting all the issues right from the beginning. There are academic institution or paying the salary even in 20, 21, 22 and all. Monthly, by the third week, they are getting salary. There are institutions. And they are not leaving the institution. They are more than 10 years, 15 years employees are also working over there. Just because of getting the salary by fifth or sixth, we are struggling like anything to meet out our monthly expenses. There are institutions giving salary by compiling 2 months together or 3 months together. Think about their situations. Think about their own ideologies and meeting out the monthly demands. What is the backup do you have apart from the usual monthly incomes? Apart from the monthly income, what kind of backups we do have? What is the additional task we are involved in? How to make an individual to strive towards their success? Everything starts here. I cannot blame a organization stating that they are giving the salary, they are giving the income in a slow rate. By the third week, if they give, what kind of importances I can face it with the first 2 weeks? How do I map with the requirements? These things becomes the problem, and slowly these problems are existing, and they are running with the same problem without giving an appropriate solution. They have got accustomed to those kind of problem, and the conflict becomes obviously the regular routine for them. Every day they do have conflicts, and they are running their show successfully in spite of conflicts. This is the category 2. Either in category 1, I should resolve the conflict, or in category 2, I should go along with the conflict. The category 3, I'll be terminating from the conflict. I'll be kicking out. I'll be either getting fired or giving a paper or giving a resignation. Either of these two will happen in the third category. So, in these three categories, obviously, the end users are going to get either compensated or going to get identified or going to get a partial fulfillment. So, the exact word of this conflict will be on compensation. Rather than this, I'm going to give you this. Rather than dairy milk, I'm going to give you a lollipop. This is what happening in major appraisals and major, manpower discussions, major one-to-one discussions. I'll be expecting a dairy milk. They'll be giving a lollipop and stating that this will be substantiated or temporary benefit for them. So just to, stop their, discrepancies, I am giving it as a temporary benefit to them. So this temporary benefit will make me to stay mum, and stay idle, and that staying idle will make the entire conflict to temporarily getting shutting down. If the temporary resolution is done, I need to be so very emotionally intelligent on making this actions. So empathy, taking into considerations of self awareness, self empathy, self motivation, self analysis, self appraisal, self regulation. I need to be legally known, legally aware about what are all the policies I do have for these kind of compensation. What is the importance I do have as an employee under a particular compensation benefits, under a Employee Benefits Act, under Factories Act 1948, or under Wages Act 1965. That is pre-independence and post-independence. What are all the legal penalties and acts have been enacted in order to ensure a individual coming into the project? How to ensure these kind of redressal mechanisms? For consumer protection redressal mechanism, we have Act 1986. That is, after so many years of independence, we had a consumer protection forum. We do have around three forums: national forum, district forum, and state forum. All the forums are giving a emotionally intelligent level of responses. They are giving a pure acknowledgement on why do I get this query nationally. If the problem volume is nationally spreaded, national forum will give you a response. If it is the forum of state, it is going to be a state problem. Across all the districts in the state, every individual district in the state is going to get a problem. They'll be addressing those issues. And it is going to be a district oriented, as of the problems related to weavers. Taking Kanchipuram into example, the weavers are getting lot and lots of issues with respect to price fixations. So the agricultural farmers, the weavers, the people who are all working behind these kind of, regular works, daily wages employee are also getting those conflicts, and they need to have a clear cut emotional intelligence. For every district, we have every problem. All the districts in Tamil Nadu are having enormous problems across all the districts. They are all the usual problems, and they are getting accompanied and gelled with the same existing problems, and they are not able to give a remedial measure. They can give a solution. Similar temporary solutions can be given. And when it is coming to a preventive or a predictive measure or a remedial measure, they were not in a position to give the remedy to this. So this is how the emotional intelligence are listed, and they have been giving a forecasted curiosity, and they are giving a lot of transitions and giving enormous improvements. If I do have emotionally intelligent people who are all working under manpower planning or so very successful on criterion wise, on analyzing a self regulation, on giving them a clear cut understanding, and giving them a clear cut mapping towards making the job so very clear. So these ideologies or these mentors who are all as previous iterators or previous employees in my zone, I need to get inputs from them how to be an emotional intelligent employee. So once after knowing this, I need to know where I should feel that others are so very empathically related to me. So this particular relationship in manpower planning must have a self empathy and empathy towards others. First of all, I should have self empathy. I should know what if I'm not getting into this. I should know what if I'm going to be in this. If I'm not as a contributor, what is the level of capability I do have? That self evaluation to be done in getting into this particular activity on making some critical decision or intellectual decisions or being a powerhouse. You can be a powerhouse for all your co-workers. You can be a data house for all your co-workers. You can be a, making all the critical thinking and critical reality can be done with all the visual explanations. You can power packly give your presentations and power packly giving all the confidential things, making them aware that what is really happening inside an organization. And you can be the initiator, and you can propagate things, and after that propagation you can start executing all your real time scenario elements, and you can come out with your successful records. So for which you need to have a self empathical factor, and that empathy is mandatorily prefixed with all the determinations. So after all making this as a manpower planner or as a HR individual, you must know the pulse rate of customer, how the customer will think, what are all the alternatives I can offer them, how to map them and how to measure them and calibrate them. So after calibrating them with the required tools and techniques, I'm having so many alternatives with me in my hand. If I have so many alternatives, I can face the customers without any problem or without any second opinion or without any doubt. I can easily face the customers. I can gel with them. I can make them aware that what is their real time problems and how do I give them the remedy to those problems, and easily if understand, make them understand that how the customers are so very potential to us, and how do they react when I'm not in a position to fulfill their demands, and how do they react when I give them all before their expectation or all before their necessity and inquiring. Everything has been given to them priorly, and give them then fullest satisfaction. So in both the criteria, there is either the fullest criteria of fulfillment, or in the partial criteria of getting them remarks, or in the poor criteria of giving them poor remarks. So in all the criterion, I'll be into a unique relationship, expecting and identifying the expectations of all the clients, and then going them with a very good business drive. And that business drive, what they have experienced with me, will make them to identify even after a decade. If they come to our own branch after a decade, they will have a superb drive with us. So all the people who are all working behind this business drive, they need to recognize us even after coming so many years. That is what the real outcome of a HR manager. I would like to give a small example on this. So there was a HR manager who was the youngest HR manager. He got this position in the year of 2017, I hope. So by the 2017, he was around 22 years old. So his name is Mr. Karthik. You can surf on Google. So Mr. Karthik from Value, Valeo. Value is a software solution. Actually, Value is the company which is producing car wipers. So Value is the company which is offering IT solutions too. So they are into coding. So he is working in elevator actually. It was been a startup of Value. They are into the new venture of manufacturing elevators. So Value is the one which has given lot of inputs and lot of opportunities towards freshers. So major companies are not expecting freshers to come up with the openings, and major companies are not into a position to afford freshers. Once all the experienced fellows, or once upon a time they were a freshers, it was surely a fresher getting into an option, and the allocations and all the inputs were more preferences were given to freshers, and now nearly having 7 years to 7 to 8 years of experience, he is turning around 30 now. So this fellow was into a situation of making all the manpower planning. He was into both of marketing and human resources parallelly. So he was in a situation to understand the pulse rate of all the clients. He is having a very good network, and now he is earning around a lakh per month. So why I have uttered his name openly means we can surf on internet. Mr. Karthik HR Manager Value. So he had a very good benchmark. He framed a structure. He started his career as a fresher, and now he is a boss for nearly 500 to 600 candidates who were into the network. And he's a vital data warehouse. He is the powerhouse of HR consultancy. So he can give a lot of potential candidates out of such recruitment. He is running mobilization of recruitment is very good done by Mr. Karthik, and now he is junior to me. He is running a very good data warehouse and data powerhouse in the current scenario. So his network in LinkedIn, his network in social media platforms is tremendously high. So he's a real time example for all the freshers getting into the manpower planning. As a recruiter, he is doing his job successfully. So if possible, you can get connected with Mr. Karthik. He's Mr. V. Karthik Velan actually. So he's the fellow recruiting people irrespective of digitalization and as well as outsourcing too. He's a guy who is in digitalization era and as well as in traditional era too. He belongs to the blend of these two eras, and now he is doing his job successfully. So with respect to this innovative marketing, he do this live interactions, making a survey, giving them a channel presence and what are all the channels available, giving them a clarity, campaigns, canvassing, and making them aware about what is the exact outcome of automation. If everything comes under automation, what is the real-time scenario deviations, percentage of efficiency deviations between automation and traditional, and making them aware about the continuous improvements process and managing their training programs and undergoing those kind of trainings is not that easy. That is on the job training. That is during job itself they are conducting training and they are giving them real understanding behind the issues which are all daily met out, and making them aware about how the systems are highly prioritizable and how highly survival. It is under a pure surveillance. It is under a pure developmental scenario. And finally, how the brand image could be risen up. So for branding, I cannot allocate an individual who is exclusively a marketing expert. Slowly, manpower planning people are getting into this kind of activity too. If I tie up with the marketing channels and human resource channels together, I'll be the one who will be the most exposed person. So if I type a name in Google search engine, if I get so many options, that becomes the success today. To measure the success of an individual, if I type his or her name in Google, if I start searching on them, either articles or either keynotes under any kind of magazines or paper clippings about those individuals, if I'm getting some raw inputs like this, it is measured as a success today. How much exposures I do have digitally, traditionally, methodology oriented, branding oriented, processing oriented, whatever the exposures I do have in today's trend, I am the senior person, irrespective of age, experience, or any kind of data what I have. If I do have real time data collections in common search engines, then I am the richest person with respect to my job. So, apart from monetary benefits and apart from image processing and apart from branding, etc., etc., as I told, to be very simple, if I do have so many followers, if I do have so many, subscriptions, subscribers in my channels, or getting lot of follow-ups, or getting lot of comments, getting towards progress, upgrading my channels and upgrading my online connect networking, it is success actually. This is what the takeaways of today's session. To be very precise, the long lasting relationship is out of only making yourself as a highly networked fellow or highly networked name professional. If I open it up openly saying that all the data what I do till date has been digitally exposed, digitally canvassing or nurturing people who are all of young minds coming into the system, and just pre-cramming all the data, what are all the achievements and what are all the milestones the individual has. It has been openly visible and openly resourceable, then it is obviously a success. So that is what the takeaways of today's session. So with this, module 4 is getting completed. So in the upcoming session we'll be having a discussion on module 5, that is digital management. So with this, module 4 is done. Any doubts on this? We can have a discussion on this ethics and conduct code of ethics, and then the conflict management, and finally branding with the relationship execution. So, any doubts on these area? Is there any
No
queries?
doubts from my professor. No doubts.
Fine. So then we can wind up the session. So we'll meet on upcoming sessions regarding on module 5. Thank you.
Thank you, coach.